What is up, everybody? Welcome back again to another episode of Say What? Barstool Parlay. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. And as always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you guys can get the videos and you know what content we're putting out. And also turn on notifications so you guys get alerts when we're putting out new content so you guys can hear the good shit. Just saying. Anyway, um, let's get into it today, guys. A lot of stuff has been happening in the last week here, and one of the biggest stories is the Dallas Cowboys are imploding. They are absolutely imploding, and it's crazy that a team that just lost a few days ago can go from losing the way they did with the assumption the head coach was getting fired, questions about the quarterback to the head coach not getting fired. The quarterback's going to have to get an extension. The coach doesn't get extended, but he's not fired. And then immediately all the rumors and finger pointing and blame deflecting and everything starts coming out of the locker room. And it's the Dallas Cowboys locker room has become toxic. And I want to start off here before we go into everything that's happening. I want to start off by painting you guys a picture of what is going on and the reason that this stuff is happening and what happens in these situations, which then is going to give you guys clarity on that's exactly what's happening here in Dallas. So let's just start by talking about the fact that we know Dallas was a 2 seed, the superior roster should have had, supposedly, the superior quarterback, superior defense, superior wide receivers, superior offensive line to Green Bay, but they lost and gave a 7 seed the first win in the history of 7 seeds, and it was the youngest roster in the NFL with a first year starter in the playoffs in Jordan Love. Youngest roster in the NFL in the playoffs, youngest roster in history to win a playoff game, and you don't only lose, which is what I said. A lot of this would be okay if Dallas had just lost the game. If you lose the game, you have a couple bad fumbles, they fumble a couple times, they recover, the kicker misses a couple field goals, and the game's just not really going your way. You have a bad day, and they end up winning on a game-winning field goal or something like that, or you're going in to win the game, and somebody drops an open touchdown pass or fumbles going into the end zone. You end up losing. You can survive that. You can move forward as a team from that. And the problem with Dallas is they got torched. They got blown out. 27-0 at halftime. These are the losses. These are the type of things that crush football teams and crush locker rooms. These are the type of losses that you just can't come back from. San Francisco last year was, yeah, we didn't really play well. Dak was not having his best year or his best game, but we're going to come back angry next year. We're going to rally around this because we had an opportunity to win that football game. We should have won that football game. We're going to come back. We're going to rally around it, and we're gonna do something next year. Those close losses and things. That's kind of what it does to the locker room. It develops that rallying mentality. What we saw from Dallas this year in the playoffs, that's not what happens. What happens is exactly what's happening in Dallas right now. Guys going, I don't believe anymore. I'm done with this. It's his fault. No, it's his fault. It's the coach's fault. It's that guy's fault. I don't trust him. He doesn't trust me. Oh man, my contract's coming up. I got to worry about me getting paid. I need to point the finger over here to make sure I get my contract. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. And losses like this, guys, they fracture a locker room. They fracture confidence. They fracture the brotherhood and the belief in one another. And it's what happens. It's absolutely what happens in these type of scenarios, in these situations. It just is. Like it just is, guys. And we see this all the time where there's just certain games and certain situations that teams can't come back from. And then at that point, you just have to blow it up because they'll never recover. And we saw that with Dallas. This was a loss. This was a result that they can't come back from. This team can't recover. It's fractured. No, they don't believe in each other anymore. They don't believe in the coaching staff. And they don't believe in the decisions being made. They don't trust the guy next to him to be able to do his job to support them. When you think you're as good as Dallas thought they were this year, and you lose in that fashion to that Green Bay team, it it really messes with the psychological makeup of a team, and sometimes it's broken beyond repair. And I really think that's where we're at now with Dallas. And I want to give you guys some examples here. So I want you guys to think about this. The best example of this that everybody will know. You guys remember the Super Bowl, Seattle, New England? Yeah, you guys know where I'm going. Marshawn Lynch doesn't get the ball on the 1 yard line. Russell throws an interception. They decide to get cute on the 1 yard line instead of giving one of the best power backs in the history of the game the ball 4 times and see if he can get a yard. Decide to get cute on first down, throw a pick. Well, what happened from that point forward, guys? The team was fractured beyond repair. They couldn't fix it. The defense didn't buy into Pete Carroll anymore. Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, those guys, they didn't buy in anymore to the system. They didn't buy into the process. They didn't buy into what they were being told. The defense is pointing the finger at the offense. The offense is pointing the finger at the defense. Certain guys in the locker room are defending Russell. Another half of the locker room, like the defense, and those guys who were close to Marshawn, so that made it even worse, are pointing the finger at Russell and Pete Carroll. And the locker room was fractured. It was broken beyond relief. They had to blow that team up. They had to move on from Marshawn. They had to move on from Sherman and Chancellor. They had to blow it up because those guys couldn't play together anymore. The damage was done. The damage was beyond repair. That loss ruined what could have been a dynastic run in Seattle. And credit to Seattle, the front office was smart enough to know it has run its course. It's over. Sad, but this is over now. We got to break it up. We got to try to do something else because this doesn't work anymore, and it's not going to work moving forward. Credit to them for recognizing what was going on and making those decisions. But that's what we're starting to see here in Dallas. It's beyond repair. It can't be fixed. A loss like that destroys the locker room, destroys the credibility with one another and with the players. It destroys the trust in the coaches, the system, the processes, the scheme. It's all destroyed. And what we saw afterwards, if you guys are Cowboys fans and you haven't watched Mike Fisher's show, The Fish Report, watch it. Mike Fisher has been an insider in Dallas for a lot of years, 30-something years, I believe. Nobody knows more about what's going on in that building than Mike Fisher. Now, I might not agree with all the opinions Mike Fisher has on the Cowboys, but Nobody will give you more honest feedback on the decisions that are being made, whether trades are going to happen or not happen. He has all the info. And immediately after that game, he was reporting that guys were leaking stuff from the locker room and pointing fingers, and it was this guy's fault, it was that guy's fault. Locker room's broken. When you start leaking stuff like that, a lot of times it's not fixable without removing pieces. And the big thing here was once that stuff started leaking out, then the families started chiming in. Micah Parsons' brother telling Dak, take 40 million or hit the bricks. Dak's the problem. Dan Quinn in the scheme. It's horrific how they're using my brother. CeeDee Lamb's mom. Whew. Excuse me, guys. Whew. I've been getting sick here, so bear with me. But CeeDee Lamb's mom coming out saying Dak isn't it. Coming out saying that Dak doesn't want to win a ring. He's not serious about it. Guys, it's getting bad. Dak's brother saying that he's wanted him out of Dallas for years, and glad that you guys all want him out. I want him out too. I mean, guys, it's the locker room is imploding, and the biggest thing that happens is this: when guys start talking about this stuff and this stuff starts coming out, it's CeeDee Lamb's job to tell his mom, "Shut up. You can't say anything that people are going to assume is coming from me if it's in a negative fashion." It's factual because what are we all going to assume if CeeDee Lamb's mom saying that? Are we thinking she's some football aficionado who's developed her own opinion on Dak Prescott and developed her own opinion on the Cowboys and this and that? Some of us might, but a majority of us won't. They're going to look at it and say, CeeDee told his mom that, and now she's leaking it on social media. That Micah Parsons talked to his brother about that, and he's leaking it on social media. So that's the situation, guys. It's hard to overcome stuff like this. The Cowboys are imploding. The locker room is fracturing. And the only way you could have prevented something like this or attempted to, because a lot of times, like I said, it's just the personnel in the building can't work together anymore. And the only way to try to prevent something like this is moving on from Mike McCarthy and hoping that a new staff and a new head coach, new scheme brings hope back to the building. The guys can then start to trust in the guy next to them again because, well, we know Mike and Dan's scheme didn't work, but this is a new one. Maybe this guy can handle this. They buy back into the scheme. They buy back into the process, which then helps them to buy back into one another. That was the only chance you had of keeping this thing together. And then on top of that, not only did you not bring in a new coach to see if you could keep the roster together or figure out next year, yeah, damage is done, we got to blow it up. But then you don't extend Mike McCarthy, which I know what you guys are saying. Mike McCarthy, you can't extend Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy should have been fired. You're right, guys, he should have been fired. But if you're going to bring him back, Jerry, if you're going to make the decision to bring him back, then take the accountability that you might have to write checks for him not to coach for you. You might have to write those checks. That's reality. Because you can't bring him back as a lame duck head coach. It's never worked in the history of football, guys, and it never will. Because the guys know that Mike McCarthy is on his way out. The whole lame duck thing, it doesn't work. The guys are just sitting there going, well, man, I got to listen to you. I got a 5-year deal. I'm going to be here when you're gone next year. They know Jerry's not going to make massive personnel moves with a lame duck coach because he's not going to change up a roster and potentially remove pieces that his new coach would want on the team. So you've now cut Mike McCarthy's legs out from under him. and you can accomplish nothing next year. He can't enforce anything. He can't enforce any standards. He can't enforce any rules because he has no leverage with the players. If you're going to keep Mike McCarthy, you have to give him an extension so he can get some feet back on the ground, cement himself a little bit, make the players go, all right, I guess he's going to be here for a while. You have to breed fake confidence into the head coach and fake confidence in the head coach to the team by extending him to give him some power and give him some authority in the room. You don't extend him, you cut your legs out from under him. He has no power, he has no authority, and the players know that. So I'm not saying that we should keep Mike McCarthy. What I'm saying is, if you're Jerry and you've made the decision that you're going to keep him, which he did, then you have to extend him. And that doesn't mean you can't fire him next year, but you have to extend him. And then if you have to cut a check, you have to cut a check, whether he's coaching for you or not. It is what it is. But it's the only way to try to keep your head coach and maybe somewhat try to hold this team together. Because right now it's completely imploding, guys. And the thing that I don't like is multiple points of this, which point number one, CeeDee Lamb should not be complaining about anything. CeeDee Lamb and his mom need to be quiet. CeeDee Lamb was not good early in that football game. CeeDee Lamb is one of the reasons they were down 27-0. Dropping passes, miscommunication with Dak. You could just look at him on the sideline. Nobody wants to see that. He was completely dejected. He was completely out of the game. Was not ready to play. So they need to be quiet. CD was part of the problem, not part of the solution. Micah Parsons' brother. Well, he has a point, needs to be quiet. The way that they're using Micah Parsons is criminal. Now, the way that he thinks they should be using him is asinine, and it's something we've talked about on this channel. He should not be an every down defensive end because he's too small to do that. You want to use him on third down as a pass rusher. Okay. You want to use him on first down as a run-stopping defensive end when he's 50 pounds undersized. Not okay. Use his athleticism to help you in the run game. Use his natural position at linebacker to help you in the run game. And you can still blitz him from linebacker and move him around. It keeps the defense guessing, keeps him off balance. That's part of what made him successful his rookie year, was him constantly moving from linebacker to end. They put him at like slot corner. They moved him all over the place. And that's part of what made him successful. They over-moved him a little bit his rookie year in stupid positions like having him play corner and shit. That's dumb. But the movement in general, if it's done correctly, like going from linebacker to end, from this backer to that backer, from this end to that end, moving him correctly like that, putting him at nose tackle on a rush down, like a third and long. Hey, we're gonna put Mike up, head up on the center. Those things are smart. Those things are good. Now, does Micah Parsons and his brother have any reason to be running their mouth after that defense literally allowed Green Bay to score on touchdowns on every single drive the entire game, 6 of 7? No. If Dak Prescott would have played like Tom Brady, we lose the football game because the defense was atrocious. And Micah Parsons was a no-show, as usual. No-show Micah. Never showed up. So absolutely, Micah and his brother should not be running their mouths about how bad the scheme is and Dak needs to take less money. You don't have room to talk. Because if I was Jerry, I'd be looking at you going, you want me to make you the highest paid defensive player in football? Where were you at in Miami? Where were you at in Buffalo? Where were you at in San Francisco? Where were you at in the Green Bay game? Where were you at round 1 in Philly? Hell, where were you at round 2 in Philly when we blew them out? Where has Micah Parsons been most of the year? Micah Parsons disappears He absolutely has no room to talk about anything. And neither does his brother. Be quiet. Dak's brother, it just continues to run his mouth. Yeah, you're right. When Dak plays like crap, Cowboys fans, we're not happy about it. Correct, Tad. Absolutely. When your brother plays like doo-doo, we don't like it. That's correct. It's nothing personal against you and your brother. It's the fact that he needs to play better and do his job. He's paid like one of the best quarterbacks in football, and he doesn't perform like one of the best quarterbacks in football when the times come that we need him. So all of these players need to make it clear to their parents. If you say something, people think it's coming from me. Can't happen. Be quiet. Quit talking. And then on top of that, these players need to take responsibility for their own actions and tell their family members, I don't have room to talk. I did not play well. Be quiet. Because none of them have the room to talk. The defense was one of the worst things I've seen in a long time watching a football game. Dak Prescott did not have his best game. CeeDee Lamb did not have his best game. The offense did not have their best game. But the defense was the number one reason that game got out of hand that quickly. The defense was beyond bad. The defense looked like a bunch of high school kids who just got thrown out on an NFL field. The defense was so atrocious, it can't even be put into words. Like we said in some of these other videos, if you haven't watched them, go check them out about McCarthy getting fired and the coaching searches. And like we said in some of these other ones, the entire game was a coverage breakdown from start to finish. The entire game was just one coverage breakdown. The entire game. I've never, like, you see a breakdown here and there, never seen an entire game that was just one huge coverage breakdown. It's insane. So there's multiple things going on here. It's clear that this locker room is fractured. It's clear that they're imploding. That Dallas is going to have a real long, tough year next year. They need to go make some huge moves to get running backs, get some linebackers, shore up that defensive line against the run. They need to make some moves. But the other part of this that I want to talk about, and it's Dak's part of it, because I keep hearing this, and it's that the Cowboys can't move on from Dak. It's nonsense. Who are you going to replace him with? Kirk Cousins is available. You want Kirk Cousins? No. It's not about replacing him with some free agent quarterback or replacing him. Yes, like I've said before, guys, in the other videos, the Dak video talking about his future and how we could move on in those stipulations. Like I've said in that video, can you move on from Dak? Yes, absolutely you can move on from Dak. Were there points where there were better surefire options like Tom Brady being available, Matthew Stafford being available, these kids coming up in the draft, the Joe Burrows of the world? Yes, absolutely. I campaigned for Jordan Love at one point. Guess that came back to bite us in the butt, didn't it? But did I campaign for some of these guys? Absolutely. There were better solutions than there are this offseason that are surefire solutions. But the one thing that we've seen, and it's what drives me nuts about the mainstream media, we just can't get rid of quarterbacks. You just can't get rid of them. I mean, there's teams like Miami who've been searching for quarterbacks for 30 years. That's not because quarterbacks are hard to find. I'm so tired of hearing that these quarterbacks are so hard to find. Almost every first-round quarterback works out. Joe Burrow, hit. Patrick Mahomes, hit. Deshaun Watson, hit. I mean, they all work. Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to the number one pick, but he's a hit. He can play. You get one or two busts and the other 4 or 5 are hit. I'm so tired of hearing that these, we don't know, quarterback. Well, that's because you got teams like the Bears that draft Mitch Trubisky in the first round, or the Giants drafting Daniel Jones. How many of us here thought those guys were first round quarterbacks? How many of us here thought those guys were really good prospects? Nobody. Nobody did. That this whole idea that, oh, it's just so hard to find. Yeah, if you can't evaluate quarterbacks, yeah, if you can't evaluate talents, yeah, it's pretty hard. Just throwing darts to the board and trying to guess who's going to be good. Yeah, that's pretty hard. But for the most part, is every guy going to be Patrick Mahomes? Or no. But for the most part, can you find guys who can play at the Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins levels of the world over and over and over again? Absolutely. Yes, you can. We see teams do it every single year. I'm so tired of hearing the, oh, you just all these guys and you can't find them and this and that. Zach Wilson. Who thought Zach Wilson was a great pick besides Mel Kiper? Not me. Who thought Trey Lance was going to be an absolute stud coming out of North Dakota State? Not me. And Trey Lance could be very good. Let me clarify that. But at the time of the draft, did I think he was a first round talent? No, he has no experience. Yeah, he's got a lot of really wow factor physical traits, but he needed a lot of experience. The guy had played zero football essentially. I mean, come on. It's a terrible quarterback draft. Did anybody think Mac Jones was a huge winner? No. I mean, I was a guy, like I said, I don't think it's very hard to evaluate quarterbacks. I was a guy who watched a couple throws from Brock Purdy against Notre Dame and said, whew, that kid can sling it. That kid can play a little bit. I don't know if he'll be a star in the NFL, but kid can play. Look at Brock Purdy now. It's not that hard to evaluate quarterbacks who can just play. Like, yeah, you can't always dictate whether they're going to be Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Montana, but it's very easy to find kids who can just play and just play at a reasonable level. That's not really hard. And I'm so tired of hearing how difficult it is to evaluate these quarterbacks. It's not that hard. It's really not. So the fact of everybody saying, well, who you what? You're going to get rid of Dak Prescott and then you go 30 years, you can't find a quarterback? Cowboys found Tony Romo as an undrafted free agent. They found Dak Prescott in the 4th round. It's not that hard to find guys that can play. So the fact that all these other teams can find the Joe Burrows and all these and the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons and Dallas is just, and the Justin Herbert, and Dallas is just sitting there going, there's no way we can find a quarterback. They just don't exist. If we get rid of Dak, you don't think there's going to be more Joe Burrows, more Patrick Mahomeses, maybe not, like a Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow level, but you don't think there's going to be more Justin Herberts, Jordan Loves available in the draft? Brock Purdy's? Yes, there absolutely is. 100%. The LSU kid, Jaden Daniels, kind of Lamar Jackson type, but he is a far, far better natural thrower of the ball. Now, Lamar's worked a lot on his ability to throw the ball, but he's already way ahead of Lamar as a natural thrower of the football. Daniels is there. He's going to be good. Bo Nix is going to be really good. Penix is going to be good. I mean, what are we looking at, guys? But instead, why is it so hard? Because you guys are looking at guys like Drake May. Oh, look at them. Drake May's going to be another Zach Wilson. Oh, look at the big arm and all the physical traits of this guy. Yeah, and North Carolina lost 5 games this year, and he threw a bunch of picks, and he didn't look good in most of them. Why in the hell would he be the 2nd overall pick over a guy like Bo Nix setting a bunch of passing records and looks phenomenal every week? Not that hard to evaluate him. Bo Nix here, Drake May here. It's hard to evaluate because the NFL looks at everything backwards and go, Drake May here, Bo Nix here. That's what hard to evaluate. Look at a guy and say, oh, look at his arm. Well, Bo Nix has a pretty good arm too, so I don't understand. Michael Penix has a pretty good arm too. I don't understand. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame I think he ended up finishing at the end of this year as the 12th on the all-time passing leaders list in NCAA football history. He's the 12th leading passer in the history of the NCAA, and he's projected to be probably like a 3rd, 4th round pick. Meanwhile, you got a guy like Drake May he's guaranteed number 2. He might be. He's trending towards number 1 with all that drama with Caleb. Ego, problem. Physical talent, good. Ability to read defenses and coverages, terrible. Throws a lot of picks. Has physical traits. Not good upstairs. Can't read coverage. Clearly doesn't do a lot of film study. Gets constantly confused by defenses and guys moving around. I mean, we watched him throw 5 picks against Notre Dame. I mean, come on, guys. It's not that hard to evaluate talent. It's not that hard to evaluate quarterbacks. So this whole idea that we can't move on from Dak Prescott and draft somebody is nonsense. It's insane. Oh, Brock Purdy is available. You could go find a Brock Purdy if you're San Francisco, but not if you're Dallas. No. Dallas could never find a quarterback. Dallas could never find another Dak Prescott in the 4th round. Couldn't happen. Not to mention, we don't know what Trey Lance looked like, and all the reports coming out of practice, he looks fantastic. So you might already have a quarterback on the roster. So, I mean, all this stuff of you can't go get a quarterback, it's nonsense. If you're Dallas, this year, you could go get a high caliber starter who's not going to be a bust, guaranteed will not be a bust, in a place like Dallas, who's not an awful football team. Call Atlanta. What do you want for the 3rd pick? We'll trade you Dak Prescott for the 3rd overall pick. Like I said, I'm not a huge Caleb fan. I think he's way overrated. But at the 3rd pick, clearly he's refusing to go to the Bears and all these other places. At the 3rd pick, you might be able to get Caleb. Since he's refusing to go all these places. Call Atlanta. Hey, what do you want for Dak? Hey, we'll trade you Dak Prescott for the 3rd overall pick. Take Caleb Williams. Me, trade for the 3rd overall pick. Take Bo Nix. Take Michael Penix. Take 2 of the best quarterbacks in this draft that are the 2 clear-cut best quarterbacks in this draft, and it's not particularly close. Although the experts like to tell you about Caleb Williams and Drake May, which we did a video on that. You guys can go back and watch. It's not particularly close. It's Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Hate to bust the bubble of Mel Kiper and all the morons that don't know what they're talking about in the draft. Trade for the 3rd pick with Atlanta, or the 2nd pick. I think Atlanta's the 2nd pick. I don't know. Trade for one of the top 5 picks with Atlanta. Trade for one of the top 5 picks with New England. You think New England doesn't want a surefire quarterback that they know is a franchise guy? There's ways to get out of this, guys. There's ways to fix these problems. And they say, you just can't find a quarterback yet. Well, funny. Every other team can find one. Every other team can find one, except the teams that just clearly make bad decisions at quarterback. They draft the guy and you go, well, why in the hell did you think he was going to be good? But all the rest of them, the guys that take the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomeses, the Deshaun Watsons, the Lamar Jacksons, they hit. They always hit. Make good decisions on prospects, and they hit. So, I mean, guys can find Brock Purdy's, and you can't find a 1st-round quarterback you think can be at least as good as Dak Prescott with the roster that Dallas has around him. Nonsense. The fact that people say that Joe Burrow, when he was coming out, if Dallas would have found a way to trade up there, or they would have found a way to trade up and get Patrick Mahomes, they would have found a way to trade up and get a Deshaun Watson, a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, that Dallas wouldn't be a better football team right now, or that those guys wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have been smart for Dallas to part ways for the unknown of these guys getting drafted. That's nonsense. Because I don't know about you guys, but like Joe Burrow, I was pounding the table. Call Cincinnati, because that's the normal common consensus in the league that, you don't know, these guys could all bust. They could all bust. Yeah, not really. Call Cincinnati. See if Cincinnati's got balls. If they're scared, well, we like Joe. He's an Ohio kid, but what if he busts? Come say, hey, we'll give you our 1st-round pick and Dak Prescott for the number 1 overall pick. Give them a 2nd round and a 3rd round pick. Give them whatever they want. Hey, 1st overall pick, we'll trade all the way. Go get Joe Burrow. You guys don't think we would already been in a Super Bowl? He took Cincinnati to one. Come on. Nonsense. So the fact that everybody pretends like this is make-believe and it's not possible and you can't go find a quarterback and they just don't exist, it's nonsense. 4 or 5 quarterbacks come out every year and 4 or 5 of them are studs every year. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And there's a whole hell of a lot more that would be Brock Purdy type of stories. But we know how the NFL does. The high picks get a chance, the low picks don't. Brock Purdy was forced to get a chance, so he got his opportunity. But there's a whole lot more Brock Purdy's even sitting out there than people like to say. So we absolutely can move on from Dak Prescott. It makes me mad when people try to pretend like there's no way to find quarterbacks and there's no way to replace somebody who could play at the same level as Dak. That's complete garbage. But this locker room's imploding, and moves have to get made. You have to move on from Dak. You have to move on from McCarthy, and these decisions are going to come due. Coming into the season, these decisions are going to come due. Where CD, clearly there's some friction there, and we saw it in the game, and we saw it with his mom on Twitter. There's friction with the defense and Micah Parsons. These decisions are going to come due. Where guys like CD are going to be sitting there going, "Hey, either trade me or get rid of Dak. Find a new quarterback or trade me. I want out." Micah Parsons, "Hey, I can't win with this guy quarterback. I want out." Those are the decisions that are going to come due. And for me, Micah, he has some value in the league. You're going to use him properly, I'd love to keep him. If you're not going to use him properly, get me some picks, get me some players. But for CD, do I want to get rid of? Dog's going crazy over there. Holy crap! But do I want to get rid of my picks, or do I want to get rid of my players like CD, who's arguably the best wide receiver in football? Do I want to get rid of the best wide receiver in football to keep the 15th best quarterback in football? No, if I got to make a decision, I'm keeping my wide receiver. I'm moving on from my quarterback. But these are the decisions that are going to come due as this team implodes. All these guys are going back and forth at each other. It's tough, guys, and it's getting bad in Dallas. And it's just sad that we're going to have to sit through a year of finger pointing and blame deflecting with a lame duck head coach as this whole thing unravels in a locker room that might be too broken to fix. I don't know. But I don't think there's a way to fix this next year. I don't think there's a way to move forward with this roster and coaching staff as currently constructed. And I think the first thing we're going to see when a new coaching staff comes in is players getting moved, because the damage has been done and it's not fixable. And these guys don't trust each other anymore. And now they're all playing for themselves and they're worried about their contracts and their money. It's no longer about the team. And they definitely don't buy into the system anymore. So we'll see, guys. But I don't see any way forward for this team next year. And we're just going to have to waste a year to then find out what we can do moving forward from that point with whatever potential new lame duck walking coach that McCarthy wants to hire. We'll see who's available. But it's going to be bad, guys. But as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe. As always, turn on notifications so you know when the content is coming out. And as always, raw takes, no apologies. Let us know what you guys think of the video, the channel, whatever the case may be in the comments. And let us know what you guys want to see, because you never know. Your next comment may be our next Barstool Parlay. Peace out, guys.